Hello, this is Dr. Jawad. Let me tell you about someone I met recently. A 74-year-old man walked into my clinic, tall, shoulders square, eyes sharp, posture upright. I glanced at his file before greeting him and thought, this must be a mistake. His blood pressure was better than mine, resting heart rate, athlete level, and when he rolled up his sleeves for the blood draw, the nurse nearly dropped her pen. Veins, muscle tone, strength, not what we typically see at that age. You want to know his secret? He looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. Doc, I stopped eating like a bird. I stopped training like I was fragile. I stopped fearing food. I started building, not shrinking. You see, we've been lied to. Aging well isn't about shrinking into a smaller version of yourself. It's not about cutting calories until your body runs on fumes. And it's definitely not about trading your muscle for the illusion of a smaller number on the scale. It's about building, not just surviving, but thriving. Let's break it down. When you cut calories consistently, especially as you age, your body doesn't just lose fat, it loses muscle, bone, and function. That's right. Calorie deficits may shed pounds, but they also strip away the very tissues that keep you strong, mobile, and independent. Now you might say, but doctor, I want to lose weight. Sure, I hear that all the time, but here's my counter. Do you want to lose weight or do you want to lose fat while keeping your strength, your mobility, your dignity? That's where protein and fat come in. Our protein, your anti aging superpower. As we age, our body becomes more anabolic resistant, which means we need more protein to stimulate the same muscle growth and repair. If you're still eating the same 40 grams a day you had in your 30s, your body's slowly starving. You need protein to build, to heal, to recover, and to protect. Aim high, prioritize quality. Grass fed meats, eggs, wild caught fish. Think of protein not as a macro, but as medicine. Don't fear fat, embrace it. And fat, we've demonized it for decades. But fat is fuel, especially for your brain, your hormones, and your metabolism. Natural healthy fats like butter, avocado, olive oil, fatty fish, they don't age you, they protect you. You are not tired because you're aging. You're tired because your hormones are out of sync, your brain is starved of healthy fats, and your body is depleted from undereating. Resistance training, the real fountain of youth. Now let's talk muscle. I don't care how old you are, you need to lift. Resistance training isn't just for bodybuilders, it's for every man and woman who wants to stay out of a nursing home. It improves bone density, joint stability, insulin sensitivity, and cognitive clarity. You want better balance, stronger legs, fewer falls, and a brain that stays sharp into your 80s? Pick up some weights. Not for vanity, for vitality. Here's the truth. You don't need to starve to be healthy. You don't need to fear fat. You don't need endless cardio. You need to eat enough, eat smart, and train with intent. This isn't about aesthetics. It's about function. Because aging isn't a curse, but losing muscle strength and fuel, that is. So next time someone tells you that aging is about slowing down, tell them, not me, I'm aging up. A lot of people, especially after 40, are unknowingly accelerating the aging process in an effort to lose weight, and the most common mistake I see is chronic calorie restriction. Let me be clear, consistently undereating is not a strategy for health, longevity, or successful aging. It's a fast track to weakness, fatigue, hormonal decline, and muscle wasting. As a physician, I've seen countless patients, particularly women, come into my clinic confused about why they're feeling older than their age despite eating clean and dieting for years. The truth, they're simply not eating enough to maintain basic function, let alone thrive. When you chronically restrict calories, your body is forced to make trade offs. It doesn't know you're trying to fit into a smaller size or achieve some arbitrary scale goal. It interprets the deficit as a survival threat. Your body is remarkably adaptive. It starts slowing down processes to conserve energy. Hormones like thyroid, which regulates metabolism, leptin, which controls hunger, and sex hormones like estrogen and testosterone begin to downregulate. And when that happens, you don't just feel tired, you begin to lose your vitality. Your sleep quality declines, your mood flattens, you lose the motivation to move, and ironically, your metabolism slows even further, making weight loss harder. But perhaps the most damaging effect of calorie deficit as you age is muscle loss. After the age of 30, we naturally start to lose muscle mass, a process known as sarcopenia. If you're not strength training and you're not eating enough, this loss is dramatically accelerated. Muscle isn't just about physical strength or aesthetics, it's your metabolic engine. It burns calories at rest, regulates blood sugar, supports joint stability, and protects you from injuries and falls. Once muscle is lost, especially after your 50s or 60s, it's far harder to regain. And yet, I still see many older adults living on 1200 or 1400 calories per day, thinking they're doing the right thing. There's also a bone health component that's often ignored. A calorie deficit not only starves muscle, it also leads to decreased bone density. Especially in postmenopausal women, the risk of osteoporosis increases significantly when the body isn't getting enough nutrients, particularly protein, calcium, and fat-soluble vitamins. Add resistance training to a poorly fueled system and you increase your risk of injury rather than strengthening your frame. And here's another truth that surprises many. When you diet too hard, too long, you don't just lose fat, you can actually store more of it in the long run. Your body becomes more efficient at holding on to fat stores to protect you from future scarcity. That's why many people rebound after a crash diet and find it harder to lose weight again. Their metabolism is now slower, their lean mass is reduced, and their body is programmed to hold on to fat more tightly. So if you're over 40 or 50 or 60 and your goal is to age gracefully, energetically, and independently, a chronic calorie deficit is not your friend. You need to fuel your body to build, not to wither. You need to prioritize nutrients, not restrict them. I would rather see a patient slightly overfed on protein and healthy fats than chronically under-eating and losing muscle. Because in the long game of aging well, strength beats skinniness and resilience beats restriction every single time. When we talk about aging well, most people immediately think of preventing wrinkles, keeping their memory sharp, or avoiding disease. But what they often overlook, and what I emphasize to every patient over 40 who sits in my office, is the critical importance of muscle. In fact, muscle is the true foundation of aging with strength, grace, and independence. It's not just for athletes or bodybuilders. It's not a vanity metric, it's the organ of longevity. Without enough lean muscle tissue, your ability to age well is compromised on every level, physically, metabolically, and even cognitively. As a physician, I've watched this truth unfold in real time. Two people in their 70s may look similar on the outside, but one has maintained muscle through proper nutrition and resistance training, while the other has lost significant muscle mass due to inactivity and under-eating. Guess which one ends up in the hospital after a fall? Guess which one bounces back from surgery faster, walks without support, climbs stairs, and keeps living independently well into their 80s and 90s? The answer always is the one with muscle. Muscle is functional tissue. It's what allows you to stand up from a chair, carry groceries, lift a grandchild, or simply walk with confidence. But it's more than just strength. Muscle is a major player in your metabolic health. It helps regulate blood sugar by acting as a storage site for glucose. This means the more muscle you have, the more sensitive your body becomes to insulin, reducing your risk of type 2 diabetes. It also contributes to better cholesterol profiles, lower inflammation, and healthier blood pressure, all key markers of longevity. Let me give you a clinical example. I once treated a man in his late 60s who had borderline diabetes and early hypertension. We adjusted his diet, increased his protein, incorporated healthy fats, but the real shift came when we introduced consistent resistance training. Over 6 months, his blood glucose levels improved without medication, his blood pressure normalized, and he reported better sleep, less joint pain, and more energy. What changed? His muscle mass. His metabolic machinery, powered by muscle, became more efficient. But here's the part that most people don't realize. Muscle is hard to build and easy to lose as we age. After 30, if you're not actively preserving or building muscle, you can lose 3 to 5% per decade, even faster if you're inactive or dieting. By the time you reach your 60s or 70s, this adds up. The result is frailty, poor balance, slower reaction time, and higher risk of falls, which are one of the top causes of injury-related deaths in the elderly. It's also important to understand that losing muscle doesn't just mean losing strength. It affects your immune system, your healing capacity, and your ability to fight illness. During hospital stays, for example, patients with higher muscle mass recover faster, have fewer complications, and spend less time in rehabilitation. I've seen patients come in for routine surgery and leave with major functional decline simply because their body didn't have the muscle to withstand stress. So when you ask me what's the most underappreciated factor in healthy aging, my answer is simple: muscle. It protects you, it empowers you, it keeps you alive longer, and lets you enjoy those years more fully. It is not optional, it is essential, and it doesn't matter where you're starting. I've seen people in their 70s and even 80s build strength and regain independence through targeted resistance training and adequate nutrition. Don't wait for a fracture, a diagnosis, or a hospital visit to realize how critical your muscle is. Start now. Prioritize it, because in the end, those who age well aren't the skinniest, they're the strongest. One of the most overlooked yet critical components of healthy aging is protein intake, and unfortunately, most adults, especially those over 40, are simply not getting enough. This isn't just a dietary oversight, it's a foundational problem that affects nearly every system in your body as you age. As a physician who spent decades working with patients in midlife and beyond, I can tell you this, inadequate protein is one of the leading contributors to muscle loss, slower recovery, fatigue, and metabolic decline in older adults. And yet, it's often the first thing people cut when they're trying to eat light or lose weight. There's a deeply rooted myth that older adults don't need as much protein because they're not as active. The opposite is true. As we age, our body becomes less responsive to the anabolic or muscle-building effects of protein. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. It means your body doesn't process and utilize protein as efficiently as it did in your 20s or 30s. To compensate, you actually need more high-quality protein to maintain and repair muscle tissue, support your immune system, keep your skin healthy, and maintain overall cellular function. Let me be clear, if you're over 40 and especially over 60, your protein needs are higher, not lower. I've seen too many patients, especially women, come in with low energy, brittle hair, persistent hunger, and declining strength. When I review their diet logs, the pattern is always the same: low calories, minimal protein, and often an overemphasis on carbohydrates. They're eating toast or cereal for breakfast, salads with light dressing for lunch, and a small portion of chicken at dinner. In total, they're barely consuming 40 to 50 grams of protein per day, when what they actually need is closer to 100 grams or more, depending on their body weight and activity level. And no, that doesn't mean they need to live on protein shakes or eat steak 3 times a day. But it does mean being intentional about getting a solid protein source at every meal. Eggs, chicken, fish, Greek yogurt, tofu, lentils, high-quality whey protein if needed. Protein should be the center of the plate, not a garnish on the side. Beyond muscle, protein also plays a vital role in other areas of aging. It's the raw material your body uses to repair tissues, produce enzymes, balance hormones, and support neurotransmitters in the brain. When protein is lacking, healing slows, cognitive function may decline, and the body becomes more susceptible to infections and chronic diseases. I've seen elderly patients struggle to recover from surgery or illness simply because their bodies lack the amino acid reserves necessary to rebuild. Here's another reason protein is so powerful for aging well. It helps with satiety and weight management. Many older adults battle with stubborn fat gain, especially around the midsection. Higher protein diets have been shown to support fat loss while preserving lean tissue, which is exactly what we want. Protein keeps you full, reduces cravings, and helps stabilize blood sugar, which is key to preventing insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, all of which become more common with age. I always tell my patients, your plate should reflect your goals. If your goal is to age with strength, energy, and independence, then protein can't be an afterthought, it must be a priority. And remember, your body isn't just running, it's rebuilding. Every single day, cells are being turned over, tissues are being repaired, and systems are being maintained. That requires raw material, and protein is that material. So whether you're 45, 65, or 85, don't fear protein, embrace it, make it part of every meal, because in the journey of aging well, protein isn't just a nutrient, it's a necessity. For decades, fat was vilified in mainstream nutrition. We were told to eat low-fat everything, low-fat yogurt, skim milk, margarine, instead of butter, all in the name of heart health and weight loss. Unfortunately, this anti-fat narrative did a tremendous disservice, especially to the aging population. As a physician who spent years observing how diet influences aging, I can tell you unequivocally, fat is not the enemy. In fact, healthy fats are essential to aging well. They're foundational to hormonal health, cognitive function, joint mobility, and even cellular integrity. Without enough fat, especially the right kinds, your body simply cannot operate at its best. Let's start with hormones. Your sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, are built on cholesterol and fat. These hormones don't just influence libido, they play a critical role in mood, bone density, muscle retention, and overall metabolic health. As you age, especially during and after menopause or andropause, hormone levels naturally decline. That's part of the process. But what I see far too often is patients unknowingly making this worse by sticking to ultra-low-fat diets. They're depriving their bodies of the raw materials needed to make the very hormones that protect them from rapid aging. Now think about your brain. It's nearly 60% fat by weight. Omega-3 fatty acids in particular, like those found in fatty fish, flaxseed, and walnuts, are crucial for brain health. They support the structure of neurons, enhance communication between brain cells, and reduce inflammation that contributes to cognitive decline. There's strong research showing that diets rich in healthy fats are associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. So if you're worried about memory loss or staying sharp in your later years, fat should be one of your allies, not your enemy. One of the most common symptoms I hear from aging patients is chronic fatigue or brain fog. And very often it's not a lack of caffeine or carbs, it's a lack of fat. Without adequate fat, your brain can't function efficiently. Your energy levels dip, your focus wanes, and your mood becomes unstable. Fat provides a dense and stable form of energy, one that doesn't spike your blood sugar like processed carbs do. And unlike glucose, ketones, which your body can make from fat, are a clean-burning fuel that your brain loves. From a physical standpoint, fats also contribute to joint health. Omega-3s have been shown to reduce inflammation, helping those with arthritis or joint pain maintain mobility. That's vital as we age.
The more comfortable your movement, the more likely you are to stay active, and activity is one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging. It's all connected. Another key point, when people cut fats, they often replace them with sugars or processed carbs, which increases inflammation, insulin resistance, and visceral fat accumulation, the very things we're trying to avoid. Ironically, people trying to get healthier by avoiding fat often end up with worse metabolic health. Now, does this mean all fats are beneficial? Of course not. Trans fats and highly processed seed oils, like soybean or corn oil, still pose significant health risks. But natural fats from foods like eggs, avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds, grass-fed meats, fatty fish, and yes, even real butter, are incredibly nourishing. These are the fats your body recognizes and knows how to use. I often tell my patients this: your body is built from what you feed it. If you're feeding it fat-free, ultra-processed, nutrient-poor food, don't be surprised if it begins to break down prematurely. But if you nourish it with whole foods, rich in the healthy fats it craves, it will reward you with better energy, clearer thinking, stronger bones, and a more resilient aging process. In short, fat doesn't make you fat. The right fats make you functional. If your goal is to age with strength, clarity, and vitality, then healthy fats must be part of your daily routine, not avoided, but embraced. If I could prescribe just one form of exercise to every patient over 40 who wants to age with strength, confidence, and independence, it wouldn't be cardio, it wouldn't be yoga, it would be resistance training, hands down. And this isn't based on opinion, it's based on decades of clinical observation and hard science. Resistance training is the single most powerful intervention we have to protect against the decline that typically accompanies aging. It preserves muscle mass, improves bone density, enhances metabolic health, sharpens the mind, and supports mobility. Yet, it remains one of the most underutilized tools in the older adult population. Let me paint a clinical picture for you. Two women in their 60s walk into my clinic. One walks upright with solid posture, moves easily, and has no joint pain. The other shuffles slightly, struggles to get out of a chair, and complains of chronic stiffness and weakness. Both are the same age, similar weight, and take no medication. The only major difference, one lifts weights 2 to 3 times per week, the other does not. It's that simple, and that profound. Resistance training doesn't just slow the aging process, it can actually reverse many of the effects of age-related decline. Muscle is not just for appearance, it is your armor, your metabolic currency. Without it, your risk of falls, fractures, and frailty skyrockets. Sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass with age, begins as early as in your 30s, and accelerates in your 50s and 60s. Without resistance training, you can lose up to 1% of muscle mass per year. But here's the good news, this is not an inevitable fate, it's a preventable condition, and even better, it's a reversible one. Many people believe they're too old or too fragile to lift weights. This couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, it's because you're getting older that you must lift. I've worked with patients in their 70s, 80s, even 90s who began resistance training for the first time, and the improvements in strength, balance, and confidence were nothing short of transforming. The human body is incredibly adaptive, no matter the age. Muscles will respond if you give them a reason to. But resistance training is about more than just muscle. It strengthens your bones by stimulating osteoblast activity, the cells that build bone. This is absolutely critical in preventing osteoporosis and the devastating hip and spine fractures that can steal independence from aging adults. I've seen women who were told to rely only on calcium and medication, but when they started lifting weight, their bones can't improve. That's not coincidence. That's physiology. And let's not forget the metabolic benefits. Resistance training improves insulin sensitivity, helps regulate blood sugar, and supports weight management, not through calorie burn during the workout, but through the long-term metabolic advantage of increased lean mass. When you lift, your body becomes a more efficient machine, burning more energy, even at rest. You sleep better, your mood improves, your brain functions more clearly, and yes, even cognitive decline can slow down. Exercise, especially strength training, increases blood flow to the brain and supports neuroplasticity. So, if you've been avoiding resistance training because you think it's too late to start, let me assure you, it's not. Start with body weight movement, progress to resistance bands, light dumbbells, machines, or even barbell training under supervision. The goal isn't to become a powerlifter. The goal is to maintain the muscle that supports your spine, stabilizes your joints, and lets you move with ease. Because here's the bottom line I tell every patient: aging is not what makes you weak. Inactivity is resistance training is your best defense. It gives you the power to stay upright, to stay independent, to age with dignity. It's not optional, it's essential. One of the most important lessons I try to teach my patients, especially those in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, is this: you must fuel your body to thrive, not just survive. Unfortunately, the modern health culture has trained people to eat less, restrict more, and fear food. We've been told that in order to stay healthy, we should eat like birds, avoid fat, skip meals, and chase a smaller number on the scale. And while that might sound like discipline on the surface, what it often creates is an undernourished, fatigued, metabolically unstable body that is simply hanging on, surviving, not thriving. Here's the reality: as you age, your nutritional needs don't go down, they actually go up. Your body needs more protein for repair, more fat for hormone production, more micronutrients for cellular health, and more overall energy to sustain muscle, bone, and brain function. When you're younger, you can get away with skipping meals or having nutrient-poor days, but once you hit your 40s and beyond, those shortcuts begin to take a toll. I see this all the time in practice. Patients who look tired, move slowly, struggle with weight loss, and suffer from brain fog, yet they're barely eating 1,200 calories a day. Their bodies are in a chronic state of nutritional debt. Think of your body like a high-performance machine. If you're not giving it the fuel it needs, it will begin shutting down non-essential systems just to preserve energy. This can manifest as hormonal imbalance, slowly thyroid function, poor sleep, increased body fat, and reduced muscle mass. And ironically, the very people who are trying to be healthy by eating less are often the ones accelerating the aging process. What your body truly needs as it ages is nourishment, deep, consistent nourishment. You need enough energy to support repair, enough protein to build and maintain muscle, enough fat to support your brain and hormones, and enough vitamins and minerals to carry out cells into daily cellular processes. What your body truly needs
chronically starved body holds on to every calorie, slows your metabolism, and makes weight loss harder, not easier. And here's something I emphasize with every patient: food is not just fuel, it's information. Every bite tells your body something. It can signal healing, growth, repair, or it can signal stress and scarcity. When you eat real, whole, nutrient rich foods in adequate amounts, you're sending a message of safety and abundance. That message allows your body to relax, recover, and truly function. So, if you're serious about aging well, really aging well, you have to shift the mindset from less is more to fuel with purpose. Stop trying to eat as little as possible and start eating as much as your body needs. Feed your strength, your clarity, your longevity, because a well fed body isn't lazy or indulgent, it's resilient. And in the long game of life, resilience always wins.